Welcome. This is Cheryl from Club Creative. Let's go! Today, I'm looking at the large-scale structure of writing a scene. A dramatic scene, an opening scene, a middle scene, the structure remains the same. If you think of a story as a length of chain, you can imagine it is created of two basic links of building blocks, scene and sequel. These two units are repeated over and over till the story is finished. Scene and sequel. As the reader, we live through the struggle and conflict with the character in each scene, and then we're with them as they decide how to recover, replan, and choose their next moves in the sequel. To write a dramatic scene, you need to make sure you move the action forward. Scene structure is as simple as GCD. Goal. The goal is what your point of view character wants at the beginning of the scenes. The goal often falls into one of these three categories. Possession of a thing, a person, riches, a career. Relief from a thing, fear, a stalker, blackmail, threats. Revenge for something, a betrayal, a slur, a loss, or a theft. The goal must be visible and concrete. The stronger the better. It must cause the character to act. Imagine you could take a photograph of your character's goal. Only then it's clear enough. For example, Sarah wants to be rich and happily married. This is not specific enough. It'd be hard to take a photo of it. However, put Sarah in a room with Daryl, who is good looking, has 3 businesses and lots of money, and stand them next to each other at the bar and watch the sparks fly. There's an easy snapshot in there. 2. Conflict. Conflict is the obstacles and opposition your character must pass through in order to reach their goal. If your character's got nothing to fight against, your scene is boring. Of course, conflict can come in several forms other than from another character. It can also be internal or external. Internal conflict is where the character fights against their own nature, their religious beliefs or strongly held morals or inbred judgments. It happens within them and moves the character arc forward. External conflict is the point of view character versus something over which they have no control. Another character, nature, a tornado, earthquake, fires, any natural occurrence. The supernatural, gods, fate, demons, spirits, and the paranormal. Society, a dystopian government perhaps, or to right a societal wrong, or to point out cultural mores. Technology, a powerful AI. Frankenstein, androids that displace mankind. An advanced alien civilization. In my example, it's the point of view character versus another character. Sarah wants to possess Daryl. However, Daryl is a happy bachelor and enjoys his freedom. This is not only cliche, but a weak conflict. Just as we need strong goals, we need strong conflicts. Better would be that Daryl cannot inherit his father's estate unless he's unmarried. That really gives Sarah something to play against. This is an example of both characters having strong motivation for acting as they do. Third part of any scene, disaster. Make them suffer, I say. Now, what happens if Sarah catches Daryl's eye, they hit it off and he changes his mind about long-term relationships? Well, apart from us wondering if he was suddenly enchanted because of his sudden flip, the story goes nowhere and it's pretty boring. If the character gets what they want, even if they fought for it, why bother reading any further? Hence the need for disaster. Don't give your characters what they want. Make them suffer. They should not reach their goal. You have godlike power over your characters. You can watch them grow as they survive each obstacle and conflict you set before them. The disaster is the hook that makes the reader turn the page. A hook in songwriting is the chorus, pre-chorus, or intro that has the listener singing the songs in their heads all day long, driving them nuts. In cinema, the hook is usually that first 5 minutes where something extraordinary happens and visually amazing before we settle into the character's normal life. In writing, the hook is the disaster or the twist at the end of each scene that leaves the reader breathless to turn the page. Okay, you've got your first scene down. Now we have to write the sequel. The sequel is the bridge from one scene to the next. The decision-making process where the character decides if they will continue, and if so, how will they continue? It's the aftermath of the conflict that was the scene before. A story filled with conflict-riddled scene after disastrous ending scene is meaningless. It doesn't move the story forward in a satisfying way and does nothing for the character's arc. It's like watching a movie that is one long, never-ending car chase. The reader needs the character's struggles to have meaning, and the sequel is often the part of your novel where you tell rather than show to get that meaning. No one wants to follow Sarah in her every sneaky thought as she plots how to capture Daryl. It's enough that we see her briefly put out by his refusal, and then show her future plans by whatever literary method you like. Dialogue with a friend, flashback if you must, a poignant scene of some sort. I encourage you to condense. First part of a sequel. The structure is simple as RDD, R for reaction. This is the emotional fallout. How does the character feel? Show the character's visceral reaction to the preceding disaster. Give your reader a chance to empathize and hurt and ache right along with them. Sarah might sit down on the lounge with a bucket of ice cream and binge-watch TV. I know I would. Or we might see her placing flowers on her destitute mother's grave while crying about her failure. This is not a time for the character to act, but to react. Okay, second part of the sequel, dilemma. Your character will need to work through their options and finally choose the least horrible alternative. If your disaster was a really good one, there will be no easy or clear choices or options. Your reader has the chance to worry for the character and wonder what on earth will come next. Your character might ask a friend what they suggest, or make a list of their choices, or they might have an option presented seemingly out of the blue. Third part of the sequel, decision. This is the part where your character actively chooses one option from all their poor choices. Your character is becoming ready to try again. This decision will inform their goal in the next scene, so make it a good choice. Make it a choice the reader can understand or empathize with. If it's risky, all the better, but it should have at least a small chance for success. Now your character has a new goal, and the reader is anxious to turn the page. Okay, I understand that some writers rail against structure in general, claiming that it infringes on their creative freedoms. I felt like that at first as well, until I began to actively dissect the novels I read and all the movies I watched and the TV I saw. I even made notes as I watched, and I discovered that no matter the genre, the most pleasing reads, the most pleasing movies were the ones where this formula, for want of a better word, was easy to see. There's something in the human psyche that tells me how a story should unfold, and my psyche knows when something seems out of place. Whether the writer planned it this way, whether they wrote it this way, or whether they structured it specifically, or whether they wrote it from the seat of their pants and just had an innate understanding of their craft, I don't know. But I do know that my writing is much better for taking this into consideration. In part 2, we'll look at the small-scale structure of a scene.